Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. This program features in-depth conversations with the leading names in the subjects of UFOs, abductees, the paranormal, panel discussions, and the very best and brightest of the next generation of writers and researchers. Meanwhile Here on Earth, the show breaking new ground in alternative talk with your intrepid host, veteran investigative writer and researcher, Peter Robbins.
Good evening, or afternoon, or morning, as the case may be, and welcome to Meanwhile Here on Earth. I'm your host, Peter Robbins, and you are watching or listening on KGRA Digital Broadcasting. That's digital broadcasting. And you can also be watching or listening on Facebook. And all of our audio shows, audio versions only, are at Spreaker.com. If you subscribe to KGRA Digital Broadcasting, you will have access, even if you subscribe to my show as opposed to a colleague's show, to everybody's shows and thousands of archived broadcasts on almost every aspect of UFOs and the paranormal. And if you subscribe on a monthly rate or yearly rate and you use my name, Peter, Peter, as your code, when you subscribe, you will get a full 30% off. And what will you do with all of that extra money? That said, no monologue tonight. I have an old friend as a guest, and one of the most unique people in terms of career background and, for me, shared interests. And before we went on the air, Michael and I were trying to remember how the hell we met, and maybe we'll figure it out. It's been a lot of years, but it does go back some years. In any case, Dr. Michael Brien is an author, lecturer, consultant, travel storyteller, adventurer, and publisher of travel books and guides, as well as a fascinating book series on UFOs, the paranormal, and the highly strange. He earned his PhD in social psychology with a specialty in the psychology of all things travel-related. And his MBA was earned at the University of Hawaii. He has had a career for more than 20 years as a college professor in both psychology and business, teaching at various universities in Hawaii, including an overseas 2-year stint teaching for the University of Maryland at its campus in Europe. Michael was the first person to coin the term travel psychology. And through his doctoral studies, work, life experiences, and world travels, he became the world's first and perhaps only travel psychologist as a specialty. As the travel psychologist, he is quoted in leading newspapers, magazines, blogs, podcasts, and other interviews worldwide, and commenting on the psychology of travel as well as ufology and the paranormal. Michael has been a member of a number of world travel clubs, including the Travelers Century Club, whose requirement for membership is travel to a minimum of 100 countries, and the Circumnavigators Club, which requires going around the world in one complete trip. Damn. He was the first to complete the United Airlines 50-state marathon contest in 1985, flying to all 50 U.S. states to win a first-class pass for a year on United's domestic UFO flights. on United's domestic U.S. flights, including Hawaii. That's beyond a Freudian slip, isn't it? Michael Brien's series, Travel Guides to Sightseeing by Public Transportation, is the first of its kind, showing travelers how to sightsee the top 50 visitor attractions in the world's most popular cities quickly and cheaply by public transportation. Michael also publishes his True Travel Tales, illustrating the psychology of travel through the travel stories he has collected traveling the world over the last 5 decades, interviewing nearly 2,000 world travelers and adventurers in the process. Books in the series include Travel Tales, Women Alone, The Me Too of Travel, and Travel Tales, Michael's Own Best 150, Travel Tales, Close Calls and Great Escapes, Travel Tales, Wild Animals are now in the works, with more titles planned shortly. But Michael's main publishing activity of late has been his unique Road to the Strange book series. The first two books in this series were co-authored with a very dear friend of both of ours, the late, great Rosemary Ellen Guiley. These are The Road to the Strange, Travel Tales of the Paranormal, and The Road to Strange, UFOs, Aliens, and High Strangeness. With the passing of Rosemary in 2019, Michael continued on the tradition of The Road to Strange to publish a third book in the series, The Road to Strange, The Contiguous Universe, as well as a fourth book, The Road to Strange, A Psychic Reader. In all, the Road to Strange book series consists of an extraordinary collection of nearly 1,800 pages full of fascinating personal experiences of UFOs, the paranormal, and the highly strange from among the nearly 2,000 people Michael has personally interviewed in his travels. The stories are largely not found anywhere else. Finally, Michael formerly served roles for MUFON, the Mutual UFO Network, the largest UFO research organization in the world. He served first as state director for Hawaii, and when Michael left Hawaii, Walt Andrus Jr., the founder of MUFON, appointed him an ambassador at large for MUFON as an honor and courtesy due Michael's long involvement with the organization. Because Michael Brien was an avid world traveler and attended many, many conferences, he knew early on, and through today, many of modern ufology's classic earlier contributors on a first-name basis. Michael occasionally lectures and is a frequent guest on radio shows and more recently internet radio and podcasts on UFOs and the paranormal, including Coast to Coast, Meanwhile Here on Earth, I'm glad to report, and CNN, even on travel psychology. He lives now in Bainbridge Island, Washington State. His website is michaelbrien.com. That's MICHAELBREIN. And you can write to him. His email address is michaelbrien@gmail.com. And it is a pleasure to welcome Dr. Michael Brien to Meanwhile Here on Earth. Welcome, Mike.
Hi, Peter. It's great to be here, and happy Valentine's Day to everybody, including some of us who may not be with a loved one, but instead are happily with you on your program.
Amen. Well, our Valentines, we've got a lot of them out there watching and listening to us, and a pleasure to have you here on this special night, my friend. I'd like
to think they have nothing better to do, but I think that this is well worth their time.
Well, they probably fall into both categories. I wanted to ask you to start with, just out of curiosity, here in cold central New York State, what's the weather like in your part of Washington State at the moment?
It's not unpleasant. You know, it's not real cold. I think we had our one snowstorm for the winter. And if you look close at the trees and pray a little bit, you might see buds forming on branches. So it's around this time it starts to get exciting around here.
Okay, so let me start out by asking you, if you know the number, maybe you just have an estimate, how many countries have you visited in your life?
Well, here's the thing, especially with the Traveler Century Club, a lot of people were toe dippers. That is, they go to a country just to stick their foot into the country and count it.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did with Belize. I went into the country from Guatemala for 45 minutes, and the people at Customs and Immigration were looking at this guy. What's with him? He just came into the country, and now he's leaving. And I said, I like your country. I just don't have a lot of time this time. So I actually got up to about 125 countries. But in my world travels, I actually interviewed a number of people that have claimed to have gone to, and the numbers vary at different times, about 317 countries.
Are
if you
there
can
that many
imagine.
countries?
They're parts of countries, and I even met this character who became the king of a country. He's an American with 50,000 Scottish names, and they featured him on a documentary on television, The King's Cruise. He was the king of Bifesh, Biffeche, and he tried to get his passport accepted as an official country. And he wound up getting put in jail in Spain for 3 nights and then released finally. But I mean, did sincerely good work for the people of Bethesda. He helped them out and so on and so forth. So 125 countries and counting, and it was still a major accomplishment. I can promise
I
you, you
think
know
so
what it's
too.
like.
Going back to the beginning, where were you born, Mike?
I was born in wonderful Philadelphia, just around the western suburbs, very close to the main line, which is
Oh,
famous
sure.
for all these fancy schmancy colleges, Swarthmore, Harvard, not Harvard, Haverford, uh, Villanova was out there, Bryn Mawr College, old Welsh development in Pennsylvania, outside of Philadelphia. So I grew up in a nice kind of suburban area, a fairly comfortable, well-to-do area, safe and sound, more or less.
Did either of your parents um, professionally do anything involved in either psychology or travel?
No, well, my mom, ready for this, was Miss Pennsylvania. That's how I got my great looks. And my dad was forced to go to work for his father, who was an immigrant from Eastern Europe, and he had to run the business for his father. But he was like editor of his high school yearbook, and he would have loved to have become a lawyer or somebody like that, Peter, but he had to become the breadwinner
Yeah,
for brothers and a sister.
yeah. Michael, when you were a kid, do you remember the first kind of awakenings that you had of this rather adult idea that we live on a planet and there are countries with people in many ways very different than us, in locations very different from us, and that maybe someday, from a kid's point of view, you could get to some of these places, and wouldn't that be interesting? Do you remember anything like that in your childhood? I'm asking in part because I do, in a very specific way that I'm not going to say right now, but do you remember anything like that that kind of woke you up to the idea of a world full of places that you might travel to?
Well, I remembered being a crazy, stupid scoundrel among my other high school friends going to Mexico on a high school trip and
Ah,
winding up pinching the bread rolls with our thumbprints to see if they'll wind up in the bread basket the next day, which they invariably did. And where we would drop coconuts from the second story, hoping that they would crack open, hitting the pavement down below and not hitting anybody and turning them into nice people gone bandidos because of getting hit in the head with a coconut. But I began to really notice things, being kind of an observant, nerdy, geeky kind of guy. But I began to notice that when I was on the main cathedral of Mexico City, walking up the steps, that these vendors with all kinds of knickknacks, Mexican knickknacks, if you were a tourist, he had 897 things to sell you, or at least show you. And I was filmed with this guy constantly closing in my face, and I would be backing up, and he would be closing in. And little did I know it then, but I know it now, that uh, Mexican people, as a general rule, as studies are done, so on and so forth, have usually a closer in conversation distance
ah,
than other nationalities, and it varies all over
interesting.
the world. And every one of us has a friend that's always in your face, right? And you're always trying to back off. And he always or she always gets insulted that you're so cold and distant,
Uh,
and you want to be more Scandinavian and
yeah.
back off. Stay
I,
away. And little did I know that became a basic tenet of nonverbal communication,
yeah.
of which I became a student of that later on.
These things
So
are so
yes,
important. In that, well, first, several thoughts come to me. Number one, when I was younger than that, in elementary school, I don't know who got me started, um, but I started to collect stamps from other countries. I'm
oh
talking
yeah,
like 7,
yeah.
8 years old. And that dawning reality that this little rectangle of paper had been in India or China or Canada or some place on
I
my
have
globe.
had exactly that feeling, especially pictures of giraffes and
Yeah,
elephants and lions on these beautiful stamps.
yeah.
Yes, we've
And
all had that.
it was not until I started to travel in earnest on my own in my early 20s when I did something a lot of people dream about, which is just take off with a pack on my back. And I was gone for a year and made my way overland, working on a freighter to get across the Atlantic from Connecticut, very close to the Tibetan border in Nepal, and then back again. And again, on my own for a year, being young and taking risks that no sane person would take when they were hopefully a little older and wanted to stay alive, but getting to know myself in a way that many people do not have the opportunity to, and fell in love with traveling as feeling I know you know. But that thing of social observation of behaviors that are so basic that you would dismiss them at first, and if you ignore them, you stand out in a way that does not serve you. One of the things I remember is in India, when people queue up, when they stand in line, one of the habits, and it's just something that people do, the same way that you described in Mexico, a absolute understood form of socialization is being faces physically closer than they are in America as a rule. And that is that you take your hand and you just place it on the back in a fist form, gently, of the person in front of you, which I remember, I'm an American. I want my space, and how dare you touch me? And then, looking at a distance at queues of people, especially when you're getting a visa or something, and thinking, this is the way they do it. And you can either resent it and, pay that subtle price, or when in Rome, do it also. And get whatever you can from this experience. A huge part of your life has been a study of the paranormal, UFOs in particular, but the world of the strange, unusual, and paranormal, to put it mildly. Did you have an initial experience or experiences as a young person, or were you just intellectually curious about this kind of thing? Or was it something, for some people, it's like, I love the Twilight Zone and I got interested in unusual stuff for that. Or I was taken by aliens and it was a real part of my life, or I had this interdimensional experience. For you, what got you interested to the degree that you became interested in UFOs and the paranormal?
Well, really, a really good question. And it's one that I've come to learn to want to know of a lot of people. And I think we find that of our circle of friends who are interested in all these things, that we've all had stories to tell. Now, I'm going to tell a couple of quick responses to that.
Yeah.
One is that either I was hallucinating or I had a fever. I'm not exactly sure, but I was in my crib. I never told this to Bud Hopkins because I was too scared, but I was in my crib and I distinctly remember looking, maybe standing up with my hands on the side of the crib, looking at my Venetian blinds on my window that was all closed. And I saw a green elf-like creature come through the blinds and quickly disappear into my toy closet. And I remembered that. Never forgot that. Never I never interpreted as aliens or elves. Never really gave it an interpretation.
Hmm.
Okay. Then I think I did a couple of intelligent things in my life early on. One is that when my friends went out to the nearby woods to smoke, I said to them, nah, I don't want to do that. My parents cough in the morning, and it's because of that. I don't want that. The other intelligent thing, I think I did two. One, I believed in Santa Claus. I think that was probably a mistake. And my best friend talked me out of that.
Hmm.
One day said, Santa Claus doesn't exist. And I believed him. But I was making a point here. Let me think of what that was. Oh yeah, the I noticed it was either Look magazine. Do you remember that article or Life? Not sure which it was. That just showed this thing going across the sky in a double page
Very
thing, and I
famous.
looked
Yeah.
at. Yeah, I'm sure you did too. I looked at it, and as a 7-year-old or however old I was, I went, this is something important. I didn't judge it. I don't even think I could read it at
Hmm.
that time.
Yeah.
I could certainly look at pictures as I used to cut up National Geographic magazines, as I'm sure you
Ah.
did. That's another thing about travel, cutting up that magazine.
Yeah.
But those were two intelligent things I did early on in my life. And it stuck with me ever since.
Did your family have a subscription to National Geographic magazine when you were a kid? Or did you just manage to get some
Probably.
copies?
I don't know because we all seem to have them. I don't
Yeah.
know where
I know we did
mine
for
came.
several years. They weren't expensive. And
No.
like you say, you didn't even have to be a big reader. The photos, of course, are, legendary quality. And you could travel in your mind. If you wanted to read the articles, great. But every
Who'd
month
have
there was,
thunk that National Geographic and postage stamps,
yeah.
especially bags of them, right? Bags of postage stamps. Remember those? You
Yes.
couldn't wait to get the thickest, biggest bag, and you didn't
Interesting.
realize that half of it might be just paper,
Yeah.
but stuffed with paper. But you were thrilled to do that.
Yeah.
National Geographic seemed to be everywhere, and we were making school projects out of National Geographic. So
Hmm.
I don't remember. I don't remember where we got those.
By the time you were in high school, and the push for most of us kids at the time from society, from our parents, from our teachers was you've got to go to college or university. And that means you've got to try to figure out what you want to be when you grow up. That terrifying, fascinating, challenging idea. By the time you were in high school, did you have an idea of what you wanted to do? And was it something that actually came to fruition in the world of psychology or travel? Or did you have some other target or goal that you were starting to think about?
Well, I'll bet you we're going to talk about similar paths. I was in high school, which was pretty easy for me. It was never a big struggle. It's not that I needed to be challenged, but I loved the science and math, all that kind of stuff, and foreign
Hmm.
languages. And I was geeky, nerdy. And so I excelled at all that stuff. And I thought, I'm on my way to become a chemical engineer. Yeah, wonderful. Just mixing chemicals and pouring them into our rivers and oceans and lakes and poisoning our farms. I didn't think about any of that stuff, but I just realized I enjoyed the science subjects and I got accepted by Carnegie Mellon.
Oh boy.
Yeah, I mean, at that time, oh my God, And then I got there and I was terrified because every one of those people, I mean, you had a beautiful mind guy went
Yeah.
there, and
Yeah.
I had a guy sitting next to me to my right with a nasty personal habit I'm not going to go into, which I said, could you mind stop doing that? And he did for a while, then he was back at it. I had personal adjustment problems. And I decided, no, I'm not going to become an engineer. And it was hard. I, wasn't getting along easily with people and away from home. So I tucked my tail between my legs and came back to Temple University,
Philadelphia.
Philadelphia, in which I could not wait. I could not wait to enroll in Russian language courses. For some reason, I liked languages, and I thought, oh, I can't wait. That'll be fun. So I did that, and I enrolled in psychology. And again, it was not hard. It was pretty much a breeze for me, and I liked it, and I didn't feel stressed. And lo and behold, I did the bachelor's degree, and I did the master's degree. And one day I was walking in the hall. I mean, just to show you, here I came to a point where I was almost flunking out of engineering school. And this professor of statistics just grabs me, and I'm like Forrest Gump walking around, my head in the clouds. And this professor grabs me, and he introduces me to all these guys in Penn that were visiting. He says, here's Michael. He's one of our top 3 graduate students. What? Huh? Oh, okay. And I did not realize it, but I was actually forming, getting a little bit of a reputation because I was good at Russian. I was good at the things I really liked. I stood out. And lo and behold, if you can picture this, I am now offered a full PhD fellowship to do clinical psychology at Temple University if I were to stay on. I mean, I really reinvented myself, and I liked psychology. I liked all that stuff.
Yeah.
But I've been bitten in the okole by the travel bug. Okole is rear end in Hawaiian. And I thought to myself, do I want to sit in the dreary halls of a big East Coast university in winters and summers? Do I want this? Do I want to deal with everybody's mental problems as a career? You're reading my mind. And I thought, nah, I'm going to Hawaii. And I gave up this fellowship, and my parents almost killed me. How could you do this? How could you?
It's absolute. This is what parents dream for their kid.
I said, nope. I'm going to study the psychology of travel. I'm going to go to the University of Hawaii, and I'm going to study some languages out there, and I'm going to do the PhD there, and I'm going to enjoy doing it. Well, let me tell you what the first day was like. Do we have time for that quick anecdote?
We sure do.
Every new graduate student was welcomed to a big, gigantic round table of all the faculty sitting around the table, and you, one-on-one, and you are scared shirtless. And I was starting to buy those Aloha shirts at that time, enjoying my summer. And I thought, oh my God, I'm going to have to deal with this. Now, the head of the department was a graduate of University of Pennsylvania, now the head of the department in Hawaii, and also worked for the visitor industry. So you have to put that in the back of your head. This guy knew I was interested in the psychology of travel, and he was involved in it. Okay, so 2 of the rat psychologists, animal psychologists, attacked me. They said, what are you here to study? Very intimidating. And I said, I'm here to study the psychology of travel. And I should have said, I'm here to study Santa Claus' influence on the human race. That's what I might as well have said that. Because they stand up and point at me and said, there's no such thing as that. You can't study that here. And there's silence.
Whoa.
The whole faculty is sitting there, absolute silence. What is this guy going to do? So I'm saying this for a little bit of exaggeration and effect. I'm going to say
Sure.
I stood up and I pointed at them and I said, number one, who are you to define what this subject is about? Who are you? And number two, if that's your attitude, I don't think I want to be here. And Peter, I swear to you, I got up and I walked out of the room. Now, this is after walking away from that fellowship, being in Hawaii for maybe a few months during the summer. And I thought to myself, oh boy, you really did it. This is just terrific. Just terrific. Then I hear people running down the hallway. I swear this happened. And I hear footsteps. And I hear somebody shouting, wait, wait. And a hand grabbed my shoulder and said, just because they said that doesn't mean the rest of us agreed with them. Get back into the room.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
That's
I don't know that has ever happened after that, or if anybody even remembers this. But that faculty member who was involved in the visitor industry became my mentor and protected me in certain battles that were taking place. And I got through.
You worked your way through?
I worked my way through as, focusing in on social psychology, but taking courses on intercultural communication, nonverbal communication. Remember we were talking about spatial distance?
Very important.
I worked for the University of Hawaii's Peace Corps program for a few months, and I took the language course with the trainees. And here's the thing. I became the best speaker among all the trainees and anybody else that was taking the courses. So I did the things I could do well to bolster me and to look back at these people and call them rear end holes. So that's interesting. And that's how I was the first one to create this concept of the psychology of travel, the travel psychologist. There were sports psychologists. Everybody heard of sports psychology.
Sure.
Why would there be travel psychology? It's such a big activity in your life and my life.
Absolutely.
Right? So I had that mission.
Even as you say that, my mind is going back to moments 50 years ago where I'm on the road for half a year already. I don't know anybody. I've pushed into some little corner of India, and I am 110% in the moment. I am here now. I am a bit of a chameleon. I am trying to be as observant and respectful as I can at any given moment. And there are moments where you think, if I allow myself to realize fully how tenuous this situation is that I've put myself in on a certain level, it's kind of a dream and it's an ideal and gee, it's what people think that they want. But if something shifts and things were to go south for me in some way, and I found that I was in an intimidating situation, my world would come crashing around me so quickly. It's also a time where you're 8,000 miles away from home. You are like an astronaut on a tether. And if that tether breaks, you can be lost forever. Even to the point that, there were I phoned home twice in a year when I got to Europe and when I got back to Europe, basically, and managing those moments of, this is amazing, but my life is incredibly, it's sort of dreamy right now. And if something were to happen and the bottom were to fall out and I were to panic, I am as alone as any human being could be in this world. And
you're very brave.
Well,
you're very brave.
I was reckless and I was adventurous. And yes, I was brave in a sense, but day by day pushing forward. And for me, why am I doing this? What is this about? What am I trying to learn?
You were doing Peter Robbins' walkabout.
I understood that by the end of that year on my own. And when I returned home, I was much the same and changed forever and have been so. But like you, at a certain point, you realize one of the most profound changes that travel produces is, yes, we're Americans. I think I can say I love my country, but I don't love my country right or wrong. I'm proud of being from a Reformed Jewish family. I'm proud of being a Russian American primarily. But I think of myself first as a human being and as a citizen of the world. Now, that kind of flies in the face of nationalism, which is a double-edged sword, which can serve or can inhibit people's behavior. It can be used in the service of each of us or to use us for purposes that maybe are best left undone. Bottom line, I guess, is what I'm saying is I never thought of what those moments where I'm thinking through all this on the road as travel psychology related, but that's, of course, what they were. Before I forget, Michael, about how many languages, not that you've mastered, but that you're facile, that you can go to Italy, France, Russia, or wherever and get by.
I could get around in 10 to 12, a little bit of them. And I went and I took little 2-week language courses. I did that in Guatemala, Spain, Russia, along the Red Sea during the summer, 10 days or 12 days. And then living in Europe for the 2 years that I did, I got good with German and French. And I had a funny, wonderful story that took place in Sicily. I was in Sicily in a campground, my VW bus, and I was self-teaching myself some Italian. And the owner of the campground loved it. And I'd go in there to buy a loaf of bread, which I went and joined a University of Maryland couple that were living in the economy. And we'd go up and have breakfast on their roof in the Sicilian sunshine in summer. And this owner of the store and campground engaged me in Italian for like 20 minutes, making me speak with him because he knew I was learning it and he wanted to help me along with that.
Good.
And I wanted to add to something that you said that was what a lot of people don't realize. And that is when you were doing your Peter Robbins walkabout and you were doing international relations, you were learning and teaching other people, and they were learning from you. You were learning from them how important it is to be able to understand and interact with people of other countries, that it makes us good international citizens, and we need more of that, especially now.
Again, this is a wonderfully reactive conversation we're having. There are moments like when you were describing the childhood incident of this apparition, this being, and there's that thing of, I think I remember it, I'm remembering it as well as I can, but did it really happen on a certain level?
Yeah.
In traveling, there are moments that in a moment, things can become, this is like from a movie. This is like from a book. This is not the kind of thing that happens to real people. There came a time for me when I was traveling by train from the northern border of Iran to Moscow. It was a 4.5-day train ride.
Wow.
And it was summer. I was in a rail car with maybe half a dozen other people, each one of us, of course, in our own compartments, fitted out, not quite for the czar, but, they only would allow you to travel first class plus. It destroyed my budget, but it was a very important week to me. And after several days, I could go to the end of the car and look into the next car, which was a people's car with, hot as hell, open windows, screaming kids, people having, their meals together on the seats and things. And a young man, I'm guessing if I was 24, he was maybe 20 or 19, came to the glass. And, there's the space between cars. I don't know what prompted us, but we just started to back and forth and nod. And at a certain point, I just invited him into my car. And he went, no, can't. But we continued to pantomime. And at a certain point, he looked both ways and he just did it. And without a word, he just followed me and we went into my compartment and we sat down. We had broken this taboo. And what do we do now? And he said, American? I said, yes. Russian? Yes. And in basic English, Russian, American, good, friend, yes. Height of the Cold War, of course. Then he did something life-changing for me.
Whoa.
He pulled out his wallet and he pulled out the most dog-eared, tired little piece of cardboard. It was the size of a baseball card, and it was one of the original Fab Four in their Edwardian suits, Beatles publicity photographs from circa 1964.
Wow.
And he started to phonetically sing a Beatles song. And I immediately started to sing along with him.
Oh, this is terrific.
And within a few minutes, we had just sung a number of Beatles songs together.
Oh,
and I'm guessing
wonderful.
The English was phonetic for him, but it was an impossible moment to sustain. It was amazing. And at a certain point, every expansion is followed by contraction and contraction expansion. The expansion of making that deep connection, all of a sudden it was like, what the hell am I doing here? And if I get caught, I am in trouble. And he made it clear with his body language, he wanted to go. And I said, wait. I stuck my head out, made sure nobody was coming, walked him back to the door, went in, quick goodbye, and that was it forever.
Did you do a bear hug?
Moments,
Did you do a bear hug with him? Did you do a hug? Because the Russians love to do hugs, bear hug.
I think, as I recall, and I did have some great Russian hugs after the fact, but no, it was just all of the expansion and the positive feelings were in sharing that music. I don't think we made any physical contact at all.
That's an incredible human interest.
A few
experience.
short minutes.
And the two of you will never forget that the rest of your lives.
No.
And he will think positively of his experience with you and vice versa.
Yeah.
No matter what we think of Vladimir Putin.
Right. Exactly. And I was thinking to myself, save this for the end, but probably at the end I won't remember it. In any case, for all of us, for those of you who have never had a chance to really travel, and now after 2 years of being locked down with this damn pandemic, wonder if there'll ever come a time again when we can do it. Certainly you can't go to some of the places that Michael and I have gone. I mean, I remember roaming around Tora Bora in Afghanistan on my own, meeting, tribal people in the mountains who would invite me back without a word of Farsi or Pashto, just sign language of you come, you eat, salam alaikum, alaikum salam, and off you go, as opposed to let me kill your ass. I'm not an irrational optimist, but things are going to change again. And if you have an ability to save for a special trip, don't think that you won't be able to take it. In fact, it could change at any moment, but right now, for the first time since 2017, it looks like I'll be going back to England in May to speak at a conference. It's the longest I have gone without being in the United Kingdom since 1988. Wow. I'm sure I've been there more than 20 times, and it's become a second home for me. And I'm terribly excited about it already, knowing I'll be visiting places I've been before, going to new places as well, seeing old friends, making new friends. It's terribly exciting. And it's a feeling of connection and adventure that are fused together. Let me segue. You are studying in Hawaii, or you have completed your studies. Have you, in this period of time, had a UFO sighting or a paranormal experience of your own? Has this been sort of sidetracked for the moment, or is this still part of your thinking or your life or your reading? How is that entering into your life about then, if at all?
Well, good points. I had a parallel interest going in the whole UFO phenomenon,
Mm.
I became the state director for Hawaii for
Oh, right.
MUFON. And I had on occasion interesting visitors that popped in, including I spent a whole day with J. Allen Hynek. And I interviewed Dr. Hynek. And I actually did one of my quote unquote famous interviews of people. And I mean, he told me all kinds of stories, and they were combination travel stories and UFO stuff.
Perfect.
So I kept that interest going at heart. And I said that I had this faculty member that was kind of a mentor for me, but I had a little falling out with him because I chose the guy for my committee because he did a study that was related to what I was studying for, the dissertation. So I didn't think Herb was his name was going to get upset with this, but he hated this guy, was trying to run him out. And I didn't know anything of this departmental politics, but he did not like the fact that I had this guy to be my chairman of my committee. So both were threatening me if I kept him or if I got rid of him. And I thought, this is ridiculous. What is the whole point of this? I decided to do what was not necessarily in my best interest, but what was decent and right. And I didn't drop this guy from the committee, even though he threatened me because his life, his career was threatened. He was desperate.
Oh my gosh.
And he said, if you drop me, I'm going to make things difficult for you. I mean, it's nice to be a valued piece of property like that. And the head of the department, my friend, said, I don't like this. I don't want you to do this. So he did not show up at my oral defense of my dissertation.
Ooh.
So I thought, this isn't good. Well, I did the defense of my thesis. They congratulated me, Dr. Brien. And then one of the faculty guys who was also a friend says, I'll arrange it. Don't worry about it. You'll go in and have him ask his questions. So I go into his office. You can cut the air with a knife. It was the tension. He looks at me and he says, well, what are you going to do next? That was his question. In other words, he came down off of this position. Now, some years after that, I had a paranormal experience where I saw him clearly and distinctly in a dream. I saw a gravestone with his name on it. I knew that this was like a Saturday night, Sunday morning. I knew I was going to get a call from a mutual graduate school friend of mine, former roommate, who said Herb Weaver passed away. He's going to call me on Monday. And he called. Wow. That's exactly what he told me, exactly what the dream was. And so I believe that Herb actually contacted me because he felt bad about the little falling out. He really was on my side, really defended me and protected me as a mentor. So, we made peace through a paranormal experience. But I began to realize that I've had some other paranormal stuff going on in my life. It came out during my traveling, more of such experiences. And then I realized the connection between the possibility of having supernatural type of experience, psychic experiences, that may have something to do with travel. I mean, travel may facilitate it. And I actually, came up with some really good ideas about that. And that's where Rosemary Ellen Guiley came along. She said, Michael, you've got a gazillion travel stories. Yeah. How about putting some of these together with some of the ones that I have, on the idea, and we created the series. And it was funny because I went on, have you ever heard of Fiverr? Fiverr? Fiverr is one of a small group of international gatherings of people who work for you across borders and do different tasks, from internet stuff and social networking and graphic design, all that. And I found people who were really good at things, and they're from all over the world, and they're not expensive, and they would earn themselves some income from this. And so I thought I'd give this guy from Slovenia an opportunity. He says, I'm creative. I want to come up with maybe ideas for titles of your books. So I said, okay, go ahead. And for $5 or $10 or whatever it was, he comes back with a list. And I go over the list with Rosemary. I said, here's what I got from this guy. What do you think? And I got to The Road to Strange. And Rosemary went, bingo.
Yeah, what a great name.
Yeah. And that became the title. But maybe we can get into this in a little while. But I want to say that concentrating on collecting stories all over the world became a source of stories also of the paranormal.
Yes.
Not only just the wonderful travel stuff you and I have talked about, but when I ask people what things in your life really jump out at you, things that have happened maybe when you're traveling or not. Remember, I had a parallel track in ufology and the paranormal stuff. So not all the stories were always travel related.
Yeah.
But a lot of that did happen that way.
You remind me also, Michael, when you're on the road, either in a very structured way, on a planned vacation, everything is covered, whether it's with a Club Med kind of experience, all your bills are paid, you know where you're going to be, when you're going to be. It's pretty effortless. You can take side trips, but basically, you're covered. Or you are on the road and you don't know what's coming at you next, literally and figuratively. There is a part of us that, how can I say, it sharpens a bit. We're in a non-standard space. And we're a bit more observant in some ways because of the novelty of not being in our normal skin, so to say. Synchronous events, what normally are coincidences, some of them can be either magnified or seem more magnified, or they simply are more overwhelming. I don't know if there's a ratio of difference in terms of people observing synchronous events in their normal lives or on the road. That would be very interesting to know. But I think some of the most extraordinary, I'll call them coincidences, I have ever had, even to the point of jaw-dropping, how could that have happened, happened to me traveling and being out there somewhere where you're just like, who can I even tell this to? And even if I did, who's going to believe me? This is just beyond even my accepting it, except I know it happened because it happened to me and I'm in the real world. And like that.
I hope you will share this during our...
I will share.
Because I got one. I've got one.
We are coming into our last few minutes of our first hour, but what I will, I've got enough time to do this one, which is I'm on my way back from India, where I've spent months roaming around, and I have a plan, which is I am going to go to the Russian embassy in Kabul, Afghanistan, when I get back there, and present myself and find a way to visit the Soviet Union, even though I know it's probably not going to happen because I'm on my own. I'm a kid, basically, with a pack on my back. I'm not part of an in-tourist thing. And I do just that, but I'm waiting to change buses, and I'm at a bus change area in a little sandstone village in the year about 1500, somewhere in the middle of Iran, for about an hour or so, cooling my heels until my bus comes. And a bus pulls in. It's not mine. And people pile off. And two guys about my age who are white guys and they're American come off. And we immediately connect and we start to chat. And one thing leads to another. And very quickly, they ask me a series of questions. Where are you from? New York. And, oh, New York. Now, I'm realizing now I'm going to finish this story right after the break. But the reason this sticks in my mind especially is it's that kind of thing where somebody say, oh, you're from New York. Do you know? Now, of course, I don't know that person. But since I was 24 and this happened to me, if somebody says, oh, you're from New York, do you know? I listen very carefully because I might just. And on that note, this is Peter Robbins and my special guest, Dr. Michael Brien, the travel psychologist, on Meanwhile Here on Earth. We will be back in about 3.5 minutes, and I will finish that story for you then, and we will continue on. Stay with us.
Hey members, the new KGRA-DB app is now available on iOS and Android devices. Gain on-demand access to any KGRA-DB programming. Download any show directly to your mobile device to listen or watch on the go. Go to the App Store and search KGRA-DB.
Welcome to the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. Here you'll find great new content, including the KGRA Classics, great shows from our archives. You'll be able to see the show times and information so you can see what show is currently on air. The on-air live button, so just go to this section and you'll be able to hear the show live with exceptional sound quality. We also have the Vault section. Make sure to subscribe to get access to great content and special features. We have the make content for our latest news and events, so make sure to sign up and you can be part of our forum. So make sure to check out the new KGRA digital broadcasting website, thekgradb.com. We look forward to seeing you there, and we hope that you enjoy the new website.
I don't want to talk about it.
I don't want to talk about it.
Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan.
Discover the Observation Deck, a one-of-a-kind virtual event platform that takes video conferencing to the next level by using avatars to navigate a campus. There's so many areas and activities to choose from. There's a 1,000-seat auditorium, an expo hall, a nightclub, and even a beach. So come attend a conference, take a class, or hear a lecture on the incredible Observation Deck campus. Go to theobservationdk.com.
This is Peter Robbins, back with Michael Brien on Meanwhile Here on Earth. Before we were so rudely interrupted by our commercial time, I was in a sandstone village somewhere in Iran waiting for a bus, and two guys get off, and we start to chat. One thing leads to another very quickly. It's a very brief stop, a few minutes. And where are you from? New York. Oh, New York. Where in New York? Well, Long Island, actually. I grew up there. Long Island? Where on Long Island? This conversation's really not going anywhere. Well, Nassau County. And they look at each other. Nassau County? Where in Nassau County? Oh, can't we talk about that? This is just silly. A village called Rockville Center. Now they're really intrigued. And I'm starting to think, I'm getting jacked around here, and it's not really funny. I'm Rockville Center. Where in Rockville Center? What street? Well, if you must know, Harvard Avenue. Harvard Avenue? Yes. Why? You know Murray Krugman?
Mary.
Only since he's 5 years old, and he lived across the street diagonally 3 blocks away, went on to become a producer for the Blue Oyster Cult, and yeah, he still might. Wait, what? Our bus is leaving. He was our roommate at Boston University. We've got to go now. And off they go. And I remember thinking, remember this, Grasshopper. This is above and beyond. Yes, these things happen, but this is a gentle tap on the shoulder reminding you that the universe, who has brought you this moment, is actually rather organized. And if you step back from the chaos, you occasionally observe it in its glory at moments like that. So paranormal somewhat, and travel for sure. Moment to share.
And me coming from this kind of background in psychology and this experience and interest in these things and all this travel stuff, it all ties in with ufology and the study of the paranormal.
Mm.
And it's not just a distinct thing. I begin to think in terms of ufology a little bit. How can I relate this to what I'm learning about people through encountering them in travel? In other words, if an intelligent species were to come here from elsewhere or elsewhen, how drastically different would my approach be to try to relate to, just like you have in the situation? Does this have a parallel? Is this a natural extension of our way of looking at fellow human beings? Does this predispose us to being maybe a little more open-minded, reflective upon interactions with others from elsewhere or elsewhen? And I don't necessarily draw a line, but it's really hard to draw parallels. But I began to realize that the travel experience not only opens you up in terms of, remember Abraham Maslow's pyramid of moving up from safety and security up the wire to self-actualizing.
Yeah.
And by doing, I'm summarizing travel psychology. I've thought about this hundreds and hundreds of hours and had discussions and so on and so forth. But as we try to become more self-fulfilled through our own personal walkabouts in our universe here on Earth, I think that we are growing so much. We're becoming so rewarded so quickly for doing and saying good things at work that we see ourselves almost laugh at the process of how we're growing and expanding ourselves and our bounds. And I cannot help but think that this has carryover in some way.
Yeah.
Now, one more thing about that. I don't want to pontificate here,
Please.
But the idea that the bottom of the pyramid is also safety and security oriented. I have learned that travel psychology has a lot to do with from the bottom up too, safety and security. It only takes that one pickpocketing experience attempt on you to teach you a number of real quick life lessons. And I've had a number of these lessons personally. And I've had umpteen gazillion stories of people being pickpocketed in all possible ways. That's another book. So I'm finding the stuff themed. But I'd like to share my incredible quintuple synchronicity.
Please.
one time when you remember me coming to New York, and our good mutual friend Penny Franklin
Yes, of
was
course.
helping me do the New York guide that I was going to have to my series of sightseeing guides to sightseeing by public transportation. And so one time, oh, and by the way, let's to go back to one other thing. When I earned that first class pass on United by flying to all 50 states within a 50-day period, I did it in 13 days and earned the first class pass on all United's domestic routes. Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I could
First class
stand
for a year anywhere
a
in America.
year plus 2 months because they had a strike. I used to drop in on meetings in Michigan, meetings in Fort Collins,
What a dream.
Laramie, Wyoming, to Leo Sprinkle's conferences.
Yeah.
I even formed a love relationship with a woman there in one of those conferences for a little
Wonderful.
while.
Great.
And I used to tease people and say, look, it's almost like I have my own personal flying saucer to go to a lot of these state meetings. Like here's Michael, like, oh, popping in, But anyway, okay. So here I am in Ashland, Oregon, where we connected
Yes.
back in the early days. I had a
think
llama ranch. What's
Could this
that?
have been in the late 70s?
No, that happened 1994.
Okay.
So, but we were talking there when you were visiting Green Springs and you were doing your thing with
Dr.
what's the-
DeMeo.
Yeah, right. So we had conversations then. We knew each other before then.
Yes.
We knew each other from MUFON meetings. And I don't know, I knew Penny, sure. I knew her before Ashland. She came to visit one
It was
time.
definitely somewhere in the
we knew-
1980s, I think, that we first met. Yeah.
Absolutely. So, okay, so here I am in Ashland, Oregon. It's the end of May. I'm going to go to the Jacob Javits Center and have a book table for my travel guide series, Sightseeing by Public Transportation. I was going to fly from Ashland, Oregon, Medford Airport to Philadelphia, stay with my sister for a few days, take the train up to New York, do the weekend thing, get on the plane, back. So on the flight from Medford, Oregon to Philadelphia, I grabbed a Hemisphere magazine, put it in my attaché. Why don't I contact them to see if they might write up my travel guide series?
Sure.
Not a bad idea. So I put that in the attaché thing, go visit my sister, get on the train. Now, what was your friend's name that you grew up with? The connection?
Murray Krugman.
Murray Krugman. Okay, keep that in mind for a second. I'm now on the train from Philly going up to New York for the weekend. It's
right.
I got the May issue of Hemispheres, and I'm going to New York, and I see a sign by the railroad, Rahway, New Jersey. And I said to myself, I know somebody from Rahway, New Jersey. Jan Chaikin, Chaiken, who was a senior at Carnegie Tech when it was Carnegie Tech then. And I talked to him a few times, and I didn't know him really well. A senior in the fraternity. He told me some 42 years earlier he was from Rahway, New Jersey. Now, we all have our Rahway, New Jersey people. Go through a town, look at the sign. I remember so-and-so from there. We've all done it. I go, I do the show. I get on the plane. It's like June 1st, back to Oregon, grab the June issue of Hemisphere, shove it in my attaché case, get home, look at a stack of mail on my counter, including a big white envelope, Hemispheres magazine. I open it up. It's got a card stapled to it. See page 24. And I didn't look at these magazines. I just grabbed them. And that was the June issue. I open it up, and there's a review of my travel guides in the Hemisphere magazine for June. That Michael did these travel guides. Here it was. I don't have to contact them. They've just done it. Okay. Next thing is I go up to my loft office. Let's see, did I get any orders for travel guides while I was away for a week, whatever it was.
Sure.
And, I got an order once from Egypt, an order from Spain, Mexico, around the US. But this is the first time I ever got an order from down the street, literally, Ashland, Oregon. So I look at it, and I look at the name. The last name is Chaiken, Chaikeen, same name as the person that I knew at Carnegie Mellon. So they ordered 2 travel guides. So I sent back an email and I said, would you like a personal delivery in person of this order, since I'm only like blocks away from you, or you want to come up and see a llama ranch? And they said, we'll come up to the llama ranch.
Who wouldn't?
Yeah. And I said, because you feed them carrots, it's kind of fun. So I emailed back and I said, would you, by any weird coincidence, be the same Jan Chaiken that I knew from Carnegie Mellon University 42 years ago? Huh? The phone rings. I hear the voice on the end of the phone. I swear to you, I recognize the voice. It was that Jan Chaiken, who I saw and thought of at the sign, Rahway, New Jersey. They come, they pick up the guides. I said, what got your interest? They said they were compiling crime statistics at New York subway stations. And they're interested in this. And they saw this looked interesting to them. So they ordered a couple of guides. I sang to him the fraternity song. And Peter, I don't know words to songs. I can't remember any of this. And I said to him, did you ever sing this song? He says, nope. And of course, he's in a fraternity. He had to sing it when he was being hazed, in a nice way. So now, like your story, how is this possible by chance? How is it? Now, this was a quintuple one that was all intertwined.
Yeah.
I've had several that are 2 of them that were like triple synchronicities, interrelated, and many double ones where you happen to know somebody in common, or you see the same person in 2 really distant places. I had that happen to me. So I realized, and I discovered early on, that one of my paranormal things is synchronicities. And I'll tell you, the universe, just like it was sending you the message, it was certainly sending me the message. Is like, you have the mantra, and I'm proud of this mantra, and it's in all these books, that if but one of these is true, what then? And I'm of the opinion, not only is one of them true, but I think many of them are true. And you need to expand and be open to at least consider. And this is where I love Stanton Friedman's gray basket, because I have so many things filed in a temporary gray basket, which I will not discount. No. As crazy as a story might be, as crazy as a loon as a person could be, I know that so many of mine were
not
personally
out of the question.
true. You know that plenty of yours were. And I think in some way, I see myself slightly akin in a parallel kind of way to Bud Hopkins and John Mack and David Jacobs, from the standpoint that they have heard many, 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 many stories. You cannot strictly have an earth, air, fire, and water modern scientific approach of what is true and what is not true. That you ought to have a gray basket, a bigger gray basket with all these things. I mean, this is what got John Mack in trouble, but it also got him to be a significant contributor. He said, I've heard so many of these stories. These people are not all making these up. There are so many things in common. And my addition to that is pay more attention, because if you're open to looking at some of the greater, finer details, you learn more. Remember how Walt Andrus used to be nuts and bolts?
Yeah.
You could never talk about abductions or some of the real weirdness. He would have nothing of it.
Yeah.
And gradually over time, the paradigm changed to be at least more open to consideration of such things as alien abductions.
Let
And that's
me
where I stand.
Take us into the world of some of the illustrations that you've sent and springboard off of them. Here's one that was taken last autumn in Portland, Oregon, if I'm correct.
Yes. Now, it looks like nobody comes to my poor table, doesn't it? And I'm the lonely man at the edge of the galaxy.
No, it's a select moment here.
But I asked them specifically, these are my friends that put these shows on.
Yeah.
They always have a booth for me. And I've been to many, many, many booths. And I will say I have upwards to 450 or so interviews that come from these shows exclusively.
Wow.
And I would sit people down. You see the little round ball mic, I'm sure you recognize right to the right of my shoulder. It's a,
yes.
What is it called? You know, it's an ice blue microphone. And so I have interviewed, like I say, hundreds of people. Now, here's what's interesting. Body, Mind, Spirit Expos. So you're going to expect maybe a little higher proportion of the bizarre, the unknown, because people have the mindset, they're more open to a lot of these things.
Sure.
So I have recorded a gazillion phenomenally interesting experiences of people just sitting down with me at my booth, and I'm recording these stories. That was one of the main ways I collected stories, but I'm going to say maybe upwards to 500 of my so-called 1,500 to 2,000 interviews have come from like shows like this. Oh, God bless you.
Thank you. Let's talk about your late co-author. Rosemary Ellen Guiley was a phenomenon. Not only was she, beautiful inside and out, the woman was brilliant. She was courageous as hell. She had one of the most inquiring minds I have ever encountered in my life. Rosemary Ellen and I became friends 30 years ago, 1992, when I was doing research for the book I was working on at the time on the Rendlesham Forest UFO incident, and needed to meet with several people in the Washington, D.C. area without even having met me. She offered me a place to stay.
And me too. I've had that as well. And I think that's just shows just how wonderful
a special way to
was.
Start a friendship. Now, Rosemary, before she passed so tragically, relatively recently, there's still a bomb crater in a lot of our lives where she disappeared. She is one of the most prolific, not to mention brilliant and insightful authors on the paranormal, anomalies in terms of aspects of esoteric history. Just
walking
her
encyclopedia.
Yeah. Just her work alone on the jinn, these otherworldly beings that inhabit a certain corner of Islam, for me was incredibly eye-opening. And before she died, on her own, she had written and published, 80 or 90 books? I don't
know how many it was, really. It's just...
I was up there. It was not quite 100, but it was really up there. How did you have the good fortune and the good luck to meet and connect with Rosemary originally?
I think I met her in the 80s. I knew her a little bit by the time I was visiting with George Wingfield, another good close friend of mine.
Crop circle researcher, yeah.
Right. And UFO researcher and experiencer, actually. I was staying at his house. He was still married at the time to his first wife. And Rosemary and her crazy boyfriend at the time were also guests there. So we were all running around crop circles, and there was so much intrigue going on. I'm not sure who trusted who,
Oh God, right. The
especially
aviary and the CIA, and
all that stuff
I
was going
remember. Yep.
rampant, but it was fun.
Yeah.
We didn't we didn't take it too seriously, but we were all in and out of the crop circles.
Yep.
And so, I interacted a little bit more with Rosemary at that time, but her boyfriend at the time was what you call an eschatologist, as a student of end times, whatever that meant, end times. And he had all these aviary connections, and it was a crazy, as a loon type of experience.
I
But
remember.
between the crop circles and all these characters and the barge inn and all these wonderful restaurants and eating places, didn't we have the greatest time?
Yeah.
And at the same time, studying these things.
Yeah.
But anyway, I remember at one time, some people were suspicious of Rosemary, because she had all these books and she's hobnobbing with this really weird character.
She was connected with so many extraordinary people, but yes, that core
Yeah, she
boyfriend.
probably knew these people, but she was who she was.
Yep.
The brilliant compiler of all these things.
10 years ago, there was a one-off conference in Lawrence, Kansas, a very eccentric conference, but the lineup of speakers was jaw-dropping. It was a couple, two gay men who decided to invest a certain amount of money of their own and just create this conference that wasn't going to be a regular conference, but invite, like their all-star lineup. And Rosemary, myself, Jesse Marcel, Charles Hall,
Wow.
Steve Bassett, it went on and on. But on one of the nights, just being out on the street, one of the photos I took of, this was 10 years ago, shy a month, of Rosemary and Richard here, a really favorite photo of mine of both of them. But
Nice.
this was the first book that you wrote with Rosemary Ellen?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And
I remember, yeah.
By the way, I love the cover. I mean,
It was really a great cover.
In the world of book jackets, part of it is like the psychology of, for those of us that grew up with LPs, you're in a record store and you're flipping through hundreds of 12 by 12 pieces of cardboard.
Beautiful albums.
That art of the cover.
Yeah.
Part of it was a true art form. Part of it was purely mercantile to get you to stop, because then you had a shot at making a sale. And in the world of paranormal books, there's some pretty wild covers. But I thought these two were really fine pieces of graphic art that were backed up by phenomenal content. And after Rosemary passed, you had two others in this series. And this one as well. Oh,
let me tell you a little bit about these two, if I could.
Please do.
Briefly. Rosemary and my first two were more collections of experiences of people with commentaries, mainly Rosemary's wonderful, insightful commentaries, and some of mine. And I remember she was teaching me a lesson. And that lesson was, Michael, whenever you make a book, make it about 240, 250 pages. Okay. All right, I'll keep that in mind. And then she was gone. And can you flash back to the contiguous universe?
Sure can.
Book 3. It was book 3.
Oh, okay.
That's book 4. Okay.
There we go.
What did this turn out to be? 600 pages. That's all. But
close.
Now this one, this is something I'm going to say is unique to me, the Michael Brien that you have in front of you.
Well, the subtitle tells it all. Nobody's done this.
Being the psychologist in the field, a psychologist, of which there are very few, as you know, and there's a few physicists, some
Sure.
medical doctors, people, Eddie Bullard in folklore,
Yes.
specialties that you get by doing a PhD
That's
and
right.
driving yourself bananas trying to complete it. But here's the point. Being a psychologist, I thought, why don't I make a study of some like case studies of people who have repeat experiences, not only paranormal, but maybe UFO or at least multiple ones.
Yes.
And I'm in there because I've had multiple paranormal things happen to me with a heavy dose of synchronicities, some telepathy, some precognition, a number of these things. And I came to the conclusion in writing this book and putting this together, yes, I've had psychic experiences. I could describe myself as being somewhat psychic. And not only if but one of these is true, many of them are true. And therefore, I'm paying more attention to other people as well, and not necessarily accepting and believing everything, but allowing my mind to expand a little bit more, such that I have the possibility of an expanded, revised paradigm. You don't shift your paradigm away from earth, air, fire, and water, of the way I look at modern science in our day and age, simply by just being a little open-minded and maybe believing a story or two. You have to systematically allow yourself to have a broader view. This is me speaking. I don't hear this very much from anybody else. Allow yourself to have a broader view such that without necessarily totally believing it, you give yourself some groundwork that you can integrate further things together in ways you do not understand now how you're going to do that. I don't know what comes after earth, air, fire, and water, but you tell me if you've heard this from that many other people. And that's this book. The psychic reader, I call that a psychic reader, and you notice I continue the theme of the road, the strange.
Yeah.
I believe the contiguous universe is that expanded multiverse, whatever you want to call it, that has the knowns and unknowns and future paradigms that we may have a billion years from now, or a million years. The psychic reader is a little play on words, as if this suggests fortune telling and all that.
Sure.
But it has, and here's what's interesting. It has a collection of unique experiences of people that don't appear anywhere else, that have commonalities, that have differences, that I feel like I wanted to have a compendium of a broader class of types of strange things.
Well, that's it. Again, this is not just people who have had extraordinary experiences and UFO-related experiences. It is about individuals that have had repeat experiences superimposed with being on the road. And I should
Why
also
don't
say,
I have some way to add to what other people have done? Aren't we all trying to seek what is our place in ufology and the paranormal? I mean, are we going to just repeat the same stuff? Yeah, hey, we got a parallel universe out here. I hope I don't slip into a portal and not get back. I mean, there has to be some systematic way to expand and to be able to incorporate. And if I'm not able to put my mark on this, what's the point? And what you do, what's the point? Unless we have something to add, maybe,
Michael, you bring up, once again, so many thoughts are triggered for me as they are for you in this conversation. And I dare say for a lot of our viewers and listeners right with us right now, but that image of the actuality and the allegory of the road have been they have been in my mind since I was a kid, and not before I went on the road on my own, as even if you are living a quiet life in a small town and your road actually is maybe, to school and then maybe to work and, to shop, and you're satisfied, you're happy living that life and following that road. Or your road is bigger. Maybe, you're an astronaut and your road is now into the sky, into the cosmos. It's either a place that we are comfortable and look forward to returning to, or that can be intimidating and that we'd like to get off of the road. And
Really.
or it balances itself out, obviously, in different ways. I can't wait to get back on the road, or, oh my gosh, what can I do to get off this particular road because I am not having a good journey here. Again, also, if we're old enough to have been through what is euphemistically called the 60s, which did not begin in 1960 and end on the last day of 1969. It started in 1966 at some point and ran on into 1969 and then bled into a bit of the early 70s, depending, and had part of your road was taking trips, as we used to call them. And that idea of internal and external trips and travels and adventures wove themselves together. With that rather broad statement, I want to go on to some of these titles here for me, and I'm going to go through these images quickly, and these are not all of them, but as I started to go through them, I found myself kind of giggling to myself a bit of, Jesus Christ, talk about somebody finding their niche. You could live to be the oldest man in the world and go, oh, I have an idea for another series, and already am halfway there with stories people have told me. And here's a tangent. I mean, I'm sure many, many people have wonderful stories of exciting and fulfilling and expansive and pleasant memories of being in Mexico, or horror stories. And one can apply that same pair of ideas to any country or location in the world. I just enjoy so much. Here we are, just France, poor France. Spooky. Well, many of us have been there on the road. Top 10. There's one I look forward to reading, hearing, or, seeing. And so we now have a bit less than half an hour, maybe, 20, 25 minutes or so. Let's hear a couple of stories that for you are emblematic of ones that stick in your mind. This is one I will never forget, that was shared with me by somebody who I am convinced was not exaggerating, but here it is, stuck. Let's start with one, and I'm going to put you on a spot here. I'm going to randomly. Airplane stories. Hit us with one.
This was actually a former girlfriend for a while in Hawaii that we became really good friends at this point in time. She got married and all that. Well, she had this boyfriend who would fly a private, small plane. And so she said she had 2 small plane incidents with him. The first one was that he forgot to put the landing gear down, and they were flying into San Francisco behind a 747, if you can imagine this. So they crunch onto the runway.
You're about to have a paranormal experience, even though...
Oh, my God. He said, brace, but they didn't get hurt. The plane was totaled, and he forgot to put the landing gear down. Nice. Wouldn't that clue you in to never fly with him ever again?
I guess.
No, but she does it a second time, another time. And this time
There's a thin
she,
difference, a thin wall between love and madness, as we know.
I know.
Continuing on.
This time they're going between, where was it? Jackson Hole and someplace up in Colorado to a birthday party, private plane. And they didn't have time for breakfast, so they stop at like a 7-Eleven and they get a package of string cheese and maybe a coffee takeout and all that. And he starts eating this cheese and they're drinking the coffees. And she knows he has asthma. He gets asthma.
I don't like
So
where
they're
this is going
flying.
already. Continue on.
They're flying over Wyoming. And he's starting to have an asthma attack. And he's going unconscious. Unconscious, if you can believe this. This is now not her first time, but her second time. And she's almost needing to slap his face. Come on, stay away.
She does not fly. She is not in any way qualified to fly a small
not.
plane.
He gets her on the radio.
Okay.
And she's saying to these people, because she was always stubborn, she was Australian. She was cute, stubborn. I will not fly this plane. I do not know how to fly this plane. Don't tell me to fly this plane. And the
Given
guy
your
says,
options.
well, look, we're going to talk you down. We're going to tell you how to do this. Okay? Now, I want you to look. There's one instrument. I want you to make sure that you're level with this thing. And she's just totally panicked. Somehow, don't ask me how, they managed to fly over a wooden fence onto a field, like a farm. And they land, no harm. Wow. And then her knees are knocking after that one. She said, that's the end of flying with him. No more flying with him.
Yes.
All right, here's a favorite tale, because we're talking about New York.
Okay.
And this woman is a big time world traveler, like you and me, maybe even more so. And she's gone everywhere in the world. She's a brave woman. And she's going to go to Cairo. So she goes to the Egyptian embassy in Rome, and there's an Italian guy there and an Egyptian guy, and they're talking to her. And they look at her and they basically say, you know what? You're crazy. Do not go by yourself to Cairo. It's just, you don't do that. And if you do, you can stay at this place or this place or this place. Do not pass go. Do not, do not do this. And she looks at them and she goes, I'm tough. I'm Italian. I'm from New York. And I'm not afraid of anything. And then in the story, as I write this up into 3 parts, I add, until I got to Cairo.
Oh.
She begins to have an affair with the manager of the Cairo airport.
All right.
He takes her to parties. He parades this modern American woman, attractive American woman, not blonde, all around the high circles of Cairo. She meets Anwar Sadat twice at dinners and has a nice conversation with him. And one of the things Anwar Sadat says to her is, by the way, be careful of your boyfriend, okay? I mean, he's a nice guy, but just don't get too in over your head. Don't get too involved in all this. This is Anwar Sadat, and he's nice with her, and she has these interactions with other men, Egyptian men, and the women are very quiet. They're very subdued, second-class citizens almost, but it's modern Egyptian society. Anyway, she's sort of winding down a relationship with the Egyptian airport manager, I mean, it's a nice relationship, and they develop a close personal, friendship and all that. But it's not going to go on forever. He introduces her to his mother. It's just stuff you wouldn't really expect. One day, he says to her, "You've got 20 minutes. I'm putting you on a boat. You're out of here. You're going to Beirut. That's it. You're going in 20 minutes because you're in trouble. Somebody is planning on kidnapping you. I heard this. It's a 70-year-old Saudi sheikh, and you've got to get out of here. Otherwise, I can't help you. I want to save you. I will ship your stuff to you. Just bear with me. Go to Beirut." So, and he won't tell her anything more. Apparently, it was a 70-year-old Saudi sheikh, and he wanted her, and they were going to kidnap her to Saudi Arabia. She was going to become a part of a harem. I mean, I kid you not, white slavery is alive and well, or was. And I have more stories about this.
Yeah.
So, all right. She is relieved by the skin of her skinny teeth, whatever that expression is. He gets her to Beirut, and she is now winding down in a hotel in Beirut for a few days, waiting to make the connection to back to Rome. And she's relieved, but she's still a little scared. And she's in a coffee shop, and this nice young man introduces himself to her. "By the way, may I introduce myself to you?" And she thinks he's a sweet young man, but she says to herself, "Yeah, I want nothing to do with this. I want no part of this." And he says, "By the way, here's my card, and I would like you to come and have lunch with my parents." And she says, I'm sorry. No, not possible. Impossible." So she says goodbye. He really is a nice guy, And she goes back. Well, maybe. They go back she goes back to her hotel. And the next day, she's out there on a lounge chair by the pool, relaxing, just wanting to be away from everybody. And guess who shows up? The young man shows up.
Of course.
He says, "By the way, you said you were going to be at your hotel. I gave you my card. Come, please have lunch with me and my parents, please. I bring you back immediately. If you're uncomfortable, I promise you. And she goes, okay. So she gets in his car, and they drive. You're shaking your head. They drive to this beautiful mansion. And they go in, and there is his parents. And they have this beautiful lunch. All stops are pulled out. Just a beautiful lunch. They're intelligent. They are educated. They are also wealthy. And they are also from Libya.
Oh, my.
They are not Egyptian or Beirut or Lebanese.
Yeah.
And the young man, is a prince. Now, is that the Gaddafi era? I do not know. I do not remember this. So they have this wonderful lunch, and he says, "Oh, by the way, would you please take a walk with me in the garden? I want to talk to you about something." She says, "Oh, okay." And they're walking in the garden, and the father says, "Look, my son wants to take you for his wife, his main wife. He wants you to be wife number one. You have a very, very good life. You can bring your parents here. You can go as you please, but you will be number one wife, and there are other wives. And he wants you because you remind him of a woman he was once in love with."
Oh, dear.
And so what do you do? "Okay, you're her. I'm tough. I'm from New York. I'm not afraid of anything.
But
I'm Italian." "Okay, what would you do if you were her?" at that point. I love asking people, see, you have to pay this price. You have to tell me what you would have done if you were her right then and there.
Fair enough. I'm old-fashioned romantic type, and I think if I were to be married, being in love with somebody by the definitions that I subscribe to would be a big part of it.
Western balderdash. Yeah, go on.
And
I'm sorry, I'm
even
making it tough.
no, all of the possible concessions and benefits of being the number one wife. I think I would just thank them for lunch and ask for a ride back to town. Wrong answer.
Wrong answer. Wrong answer.
The right
She
answer
says,
would be, Doctor?
I just met your son. He's very nice. I like him, but I don't really know him yet. You know, I have to think about this. I have to buy time. He says, all right, you have until noon tomorrow.
Well, there you go then.
We come to fetch you from the hotel tomorrow at noon.
Fetch.
So
Good.
she gets out of there and she's dropped off at that hotel and she runs through the lobby, desperate. Is there another American here? Is there an American anywhere? Please help me. And she goes to the front desk. Is there another American staying here? I must talk to him. And then she looks around, and there is a guy who's a dead ringer for an American. Oh, hold on. Are you, sir, excuse me, are you maybe an American? Huh? He says, yeah. And he works at the airport. She explains the whole thing. Can you get me out of here tonight? He says, yep, I'm putting you on a plane. And he gets her out of there that night. And that's the end of story.
That's plenty.
Now I have 100 like it.
No doubt.
And it's in that book, Travel Tales, Women Alone, the Me Too of Travel. Women who have been kidnapped, nearly kidnapped. Anyway, that's the woman book, Solo Woman Traveler.
In the world of paranormal stories that you have heard that you feel are absolutely authentic and stand out in your mind and in the extraordinary world of the number of stories that have been shared with you, would any of them come under the spooky travel tales?
Yes.
Would you share one in that category with us, Michael?
Absolutely. I've had, it's easier to relate it to some of my own accounts, but I want to just tell you that the series that you're showing was an earlier experimental series. I'll come out with books later, on more of these themes, but more in with the general look and feel. Did you post a picture of one of the True Travel Tales books? Let me just quickly. No, that's the UFO paranormal. Okay, here we go. Okay, this one, you see, it's a more modern version.
Great.
They're all similar. The colors are different. The titles are different. So one that I'm just completing as we speak, Travel Tales, Close Calls and Great Escapes.
Oh, boy.
Is the next one. Since it's 1,200 pages, I have to reduce it down.
Yeah.
I'm extracting out Wild Animal Tales, which is all the close call stories and crazy things that you eat.
Wow.
That'll be that. But let me share with you that I've had a penchant. Again, I think this is part of my nature, having a little touch of the psychic stuff, that I feel, and you may feel as well, that you can come into a location and get a sense of it that maybe just maybe this place could be haunted.
Well, you've got less than 5 minutes to share it,
okay,
so be aware.
Okay. All right, good. All right, so I've gone to at least 3 hotels in my life where I've looked at them and I said, this place is haunted. One of them is in one of our neighbor islands here on San Juan Island. I went to the front desk. I interviewed people that worked there. I got to interview the security guard and a night manager who told me all sorts of experiences about that hotel. And I wrote it up in, it's in the a psychic reader. Oh, no, it's in the one on repeat experiencers, because I had a number of people that have stayed at that hotel that reported their experiences. So yes, I have come to places which I felt immediately on entering them that they had a history of some kind. So I'm not a Ghostbuster on TV doing that, but I feel like many people, I feel that you can pick up on something. So I've picked up on stuff. So I've won. Did you ever come to Eureka Springs?
No, I never was. I considered Leo a good friend, but
Peter,
never was what. Yeah, I heard it was a wonderful
I went
series.
to 20 at Eureka Springs,
Oh
Arkansas,
my
at least 20, and the Crescent Hotel at Eureka Springs is one of the most haunted hotels in America, and it's there, and we've taken some tours around it, whatnot. I have plenty of stories of travelers who told me instances of hotels being haunted. I had a guy who was a fan of Dracula, who had a tattoo on his arm, T-shirts when I interviewed him, took his girlfriend to Transylvania for Halloween and had an experience. Now, did he make this up, or is it possibly that his whole life's calling was to wind up going over to Transylvania to have an experience or a connection?
Mm-hmm.
Is it an urban myth, or is it something that may be true? That
Good
was
point.
one of the stories.
Boy,
we didn't have enough time, Peter.
Michael, it occurs to me you are in some ways a very fortunate man in that you chose to follow your bliss, to follow your passion in two remarkable areas: seeing the world, being a traveler, interacting with people from every corner of the world, and documenting UFO and paranormal related experiences. Like a good character actor, you can do what you're doing until your mind goes. I mean, you have
Peter,
this
I'm like
wonderful
Forrest
world.
Gump.
This
I'm
is
like
very
Forrest Gump.
special.
I'm like Forrest Gump. I'm as close to Forrest Gump as anybody that I can think of. And I like to think I'm making a contribution. Maybe somebody will read one of my books 100 years from now, or maybe next week. But I think I have something to contribute. And I love doing this. And I love all the friends I've made, like you and all the others. And I miss Bud Hopkins so much.
Yeah, it's true. But, we carry around these people that we loved, that we knew, that made an impression on us, that changed our lives. And we take part of them with us into the future. And that understood, Bud, having coined the term missing time, we are just at the edge of our missing time experience of 2 hours that have blown by in seemingly much less than 2 hours. This is Peter Robbins. My special guest tonight has been Dr. Michael Brien. You can reach Michael at his email address. And again, what is that, Mike?
Michael Brien, BREIN, @gmail.com, and michaelbrien.com, which has all these books.
That's
and you
your
can
website.
get them any way you want, any of your favorite ways. But if you'd like an autographed book set of this 1,800-page series, Monster Series, contact me directly for that. I'll autograph that, and that's a one of a kind.
Beautiful. Our guest next week is a dear friend and a mentor to me, even though he doesn't know it, broadcaster Soraya Azketh. He is the host of a wonderful radio show that comes out of Ithaca, New York, near where I live, called Where Did the Road Go? a paranormal talk show encompassing everything from lost civilizations, ghosts, UFOs, cryptoids, alternate science, and much more. He also does a weekly music show called Last Exit for the Lost. If you've enjoyed tonight's show, please tell your friends. See you next week. Stand up for what you believe in. Take care of yourself and be kind to each other.